So a lot of things bother me. So that's part of the issue, is I didn't get paid to be relaxed about any of this stuff. It is true that there's no question that non-state actors in this space can do a lot of harm, and that one person with a reasonable amount of savvy, and when I say reasonable amount, I mean nowhere near the kind of savvy that Nate Lubin, who we brought here today, who you greeted earlier, who used to run the White House digital apparatus, has. I mean, like 1/10 Nate Lubin could do a lot of damage, like a lot of damage to a company, to somebody. If you're an average person who has an email account that they haven't secured. I mean, I spent a lot of yesterday on the phone with a friend of mine who used to work with me at the White House, has gotten all the White House cybersecurity trainings, and her email was hacked into. And even though she had two-factor authentication up, which we can talk about if you want to get into practical cybersecurity tips, but we spent all day kicking what I assume was a Bulgarian organized criminal out of her email as they were trying to get into her network. There's no question one person can do damage at a scale that is sort of unusual. However, for a lot of the 1990s and early 2000s, there was a lot of conversation about cyber terrorism and terrorists using the internet, and so, oh my God, this is a brave new world of terrorists shutting down the internet. That's not presently the case. Right now, terrorist use of the internet is not all that different than my mother's use of the internet. Terrorists use the internet to communicate, to make new friends, to recruit new friends, to raise some money for a cause they care about, not a great cause. But that's how they use the internet. And now, obviously, they're savvier than my mother. They're encrypting their own technology. They're probably using two-factor authentication. They're doing all these things on it. But to say that there's something truly deeply novel here is not. And so as we're thinking about how to allocate threats, I am reminded of a dinner that I had early in my job. It was a dinner that I had absolutely no business being at, but it was one of these, again, cases where cyber, nobody cared. So they're like, oh, send that guy. And I was seated next to one member of Congress and another who shall remain nameless, a director of national intelligence. And that director of national intelligence had just given a speech where he had basically said that the terrorist threat and the cyber threat were one and the same, and because Al-Qaeda was getting online, we had to confront them in cyberspace. And I sat down next to him, and I was an intelligence analyst at the time, and I said, look, sir, respectfully, I'm reading the same intelligence you are, and that doesn't seem like that's the core of the problem. So why exactly did you say all that? And he said, let me tell you. He said, I've been in this business for 30 years, and I see areas that are overemphasized, and I see areas that are underemphasized. And in the intelligence community, everything's about money. And so if you've got terrorism, where we're putting too much money, and cyber, where we're not putting enough money, you build a bridge, and suddenly we get safer. Which was real bureaucratic jujitsu, but he had a point. And so, anything that is in that public discourse about cyber terrorism, a lot of it has to do with just raising this issue to a profile of being of national importance. I think we're there, and I think that's why you're hearing less about the idea of cyber terrorism or of terrorists using the internet in a new or novel way.